Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast, back for a brand new episode here in season three. Yes, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen, season three. No, your screen is not broken. My amazing co host, Elisa Middleton, she's not here with us today. Uh, but stay tuned for more. I'm sitting here riding in the chair, riding solo, but I'm here today with a great guest. And this is something that, really affects, our community at large. And when I say our community, I'm talking about the black and brown community. When we're talking about, the inequalities and the injustices that have really come to the forefront over the last year and a half, the pandemic, George Floyd, and all of these other things. Have an opportunity to really sit down with a woman who's really it's personal. It's put a lot of heart and soul and dedication into what we're going to be talking about today when it comes to incarceration in our community. And with that really being said, I'm not going to talk or go on. I want to bring today's guest to the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, please, really take a minute to sit. Uh, and I'm going to let this woman introduce herself because what she's doing and what she's done here in our community, I think is really great. Juanita, could you take a few minutes just to introduce yourself to our audience, let them know who you are, give a little history about yourself, and what about your foundation that you started here in the DMV area?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share. It's an honor to always be able to share what we're doing in our community with regards to our organization. But what I will start with is, of course, again, my name is Juanita Shanks, and I am the founder and CEO of FailSafe-ERA. I am also a retired federal government person. I retired from government in 2017 to really focus on FailSafe-ERA, although FailSafe was founded in 2009. Haven't had a lot of opportunity to put a lot of sweat into it because I was again working full time, commuting up north from 4 a.m. to 7
Wow.
p.m. But
Wow.
FailSafe Era is my ministry, so I never gave up on it. I put some time into it, but it is it's personal, as you
Yeah.
said, it is personal to me.
And I really have to start there, in all honesty, getting the information and reading into the information. Like so many others, here in our community, not just locally, but I mean, this is abroad.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, right. And really have stories and pain and hardship, and it's personal. Can you take a few minutes and just share your story and why, like you said, this has become your ministry and the personal meaning behind it and the push behind it. Can you take a few minutes to talk about that?
Absolutely, I sure will. I don't know if you ever watched the show Golden Girls,
Hmm.
and Mother Sophia would tell you, picture it,
Hmm.
2000, year 2000, high school honor roll, took the team to state championship, church, come from a two-family background,
Hmm.
home,
Hmm.
middle class, same parents. One is a PhD in college and education. One chose to get their degree in what not to do.
Wow. Hmm.
And so in 2000, my son made a decision that changed the trajectory of his life.
Mm.
And at that time, again, I was in federal government, so didn't want anybody to know what I was going through. But
Right.
he made a bad choice. He made a bad decision. And that decision was a criminal act. He was charged with drug trafficking.
Wow.
And it was the hardest thing I could have ever walked through in my life. And when I
Hmm.
got that gut wrenching collect call in the middle of the night, and my son on the other end, he was 19 at the time. He was on a scholarship. He was on a
Mm.
basketball scholarship at Collie County, Kansas. And he was on home on break. And so he called me about, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock that night in the morning and said, Mom, I collect call from Alexandria Detention Center. Mom, this is a felony. And I
Wow.
thought my heart just dropped to the pit of my stomach
Wow.
because, we're going to church.
Mm-hmm.
Upstanding citizen, pretty high grade in the government,
Right.
upstanding family in the community. And then this happens. And I remember before then, some of his friends that he was hanging with were always the best, all of them, not
Right.
all of them.
Right.
But I remember when some of them, about four of them, had their pictures on the front page of the newspaper, and it was a murder charge. And I remember
Oh my
saying to
goodness.
another friend of mine, if my kid were to ever go to jail, I would lose my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That
Wow.
was not my plan for him, but I didn't lose my mind. But what God was doing, in my opinion, was setting us up so that we could help other people. At
Yes.
that time, we didn't realize
You,
that because it was
yeah.
about me.
Right. 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 It hit home first. It's
Yeah,
personal. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so you go through all this shame. Couldn't tell anybody. Couldn't tell. Didn't want to tell family members. Didn't want to tell friends. Didn't want to tell anybody that my son was in jail. At that time, he was just in jail, and again for drug charges. And we had to go through the process of my husband is his stepfather,
Mm.
and so so we had to go through the process of also telling his dad,
Right.
and of course my husband at that time was a police officer.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, and
So
before you can, I just have to ask because like this is one of the things that I find your story is kind of becoming more of our story in the sense that many of us, as parents now, we've achieved certain levels of success in, you know, mobility, middle class, upper middle class. We're
hmm
hardworking, and then
hmm
our kids, who really doesn't sound like your son, really even. And again, I want to be very delicate in how I say this. Come from that element because look, I come from New York. I come from an environment. Look, I've seen it. I've been around it. Again, but you're able to navigate certain things. But it seems prevalent because I also too personally know family and friends that come from a middle class background, know nothing about the streets, drugs, but are getting caught up.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's a trying to be street cred, and I don't know with your son, like why you talking. I'm just trying to figure what was that conversation like why or
Well,
what
I
was.
think it's a combination.
Mm-hmm.
So here I do believe, and this is why one of our programs, and I'll go into more details about
Mm-hmm.
our programs, but
Mm-hmm.
one of our programs is to prevent generations of incarceration, right?
Okay. Right.
Because I do believe that it can be generational. And so
Mm-hmm.
we did have some of that on my side and on
Mm-hmm.
his dad's side of the
Mm-hmm.
family. So that's one thing. Two, yeah, you do get caught up in the streets. You get caught up
Mm-hmm.
in your friendship and your environment because when I think about it and I look, I only have two kids
Mm-hmm.
and I have a son and a daughter, and both of them come from the same two parents, same household, but how one chose this direction and the other one chose another.
Right. Right.
And so I do believe it has a lot to do with their environment. And then
Mm.
some of it just has to do with because that's just the kind of person he was at the time. I
Right.
was not a perfect kid.
Right. 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 I don't think none of us were. Like, let's just be honest. Like,
No,
none of us
I
were.
wasn't a perfect kid. And I often say that had I been a boy, I think I would have been just like him. So he picked up on some of my
And
ways.
that's fair. That's fair. Cause and again too, that like I said, as a parent, you know your child. I can say the
Yeah.
same about mine. I see some of the traveler. Oh yeah, she gets that from me. Yeah, so I get it. Yeah, and that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
and he was not a follower.
Mm.
He wasn't a follower. And I'm not
Wow.
proud of that. Um because I think he could have led many people in better ways.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
he chose to go that direction. And it's unfortunate because it's also how his life ended.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so he just passed away in January of this year.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Mhm. And
My
you know what? But
goodness.
I have peace because he had the opportunity to get to know who God was before he took his last breath.
Mm.
And so I have peace about that.
Yeah.
But it is not what I would have wished for him.
Yeah.
But it was a direction that he or a position or well, a position he put himself in, basically, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Didn't have to happen. I won't go into all the
Yeah.
details,
Yeah.
but didn't have to happen. But because of him, many have other examples of things of what not to do.
Not to do.
You
Yeah.
know,
And I
and before he passed away, one of the things he said to me is, "He's good." It's like, "I'm good, Mom, but look out for the others."
and that's I think that's a excellent point to really end on that note, because again, my heart breaks right now just hearing that. But I do feel the uplifting journey that that story can be for so many
Mm.
others
Yeah.
that are feeling a lot of the pain and stress that maybe you felt early on going through the process, and now having fail safe and really now being able to turn your focus and use his energy, and your pain, which becomes a strength now,
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
to yeah, it really it does, and turn fail safe into a, a real story. And I'm glad we have you here today. I want our listeners and our audience to really hear this, because this is a struggle for all of us, and I want to turn this pain and struggle into something positive, and that really leads into asking. So, let's just really talk about fail safe era and
Okay.
what it really is all about. And most importantly, we know why it was formed. But now I just want to take that where it's formed, and now once you give us that background of what it is, where do you see it continuing to go?
Okay.
Mhm.
You one of the things you hit on is that your my pain, and I told many people this, your pain can determine your purpose.
Yes.
And so the pain of what we walked through, and when FailSafe was initially formed in 2009, it was formed as a support group for family members that have been impacted by incarceration, because
Mhm.
that's what I was.
Mhm.
But we recognized quickly that we weren't getting the family members. The family members are ashamed. They were
Mm.
not coming out. They were not going to tell others that they have been impacted by incarceration. And we still get that today. And so we expanded what we were doing and started working with the inmates, the returning citizens. And what I will say to you is that FailSafe, many times for a while, many thought FailSafe was a prison ministry. It is not a prison ministry.
Mm.
It's a reentry organization. And
Mm.
so when I started to go into the jails, I my intention was to go into the jail so that I can get to the inmates, so that I can get to the family members again, because that's why it was formed. But
Mhm.
in order to go into the jails, for you have to go in there for ministry, and so that's kind of how the ministry side of FailSafe had gotten started.
Okay.
So that we started going in and we would minister to the inmates. Many times, people come to the Lord in jail.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when everybody gets saved, when they
Yes,
go to
ma'am.
jail and or
Mhm.
prison. And so we expanded our program so to include prison ministry or jail ministry, so that we can continue to get into jail to reach the inmates. But the inmates have, and again to the returning citizens. But if soon we soon recognized that this was a whole family problem. This was
Mm.
not just a problem for the family members. This was not just the inmates. This was also what we call the returning citizens, the formerly incarcerated, because everybody, when you're locked up, when my son was locked up, the whole family was locked
Was
up.
locked up. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, and so we help reach the inmates through ministry when they come out. And the best thing is for us to do is to get them before they even come out. But
Mhm.
when they come out, we refer to them as returning citizens. We have our Right Road Reentry program, and that program is where these. And then we have two programs that encompasses two really main programs under Right Road Reentry. One is the Right Road Job Training, and the other one is the
Mm.
Courage to Change,
Okay.
because they have to have the courage to change.
Yeah.
Courage to Change is evidence based. It's based upon their criminogenic risk and needs. It's training. It's interactive journaling, and it helps them to understand. It helps them to recognize their behaviors and why they think or do the things that they do. And then the
Mm.
Right Road Job Training program, of course, is cognitive behavioral therapy, but it helps them to make better decisions, help them with communication skills, help them to understand their purpose. And then we follow that with job training with
Mm.
employers. You have different employers coming in. And so FailSafe, again, is a reentry organization that works with the entire family. So for the inmates and the family members and the returning citizens, Right Road Reentry.
So I have to ask too, because like I said, just to even shift gears on the other side, because like this really, like you said, encompasses not just the inmate or the person in jail. It is the whole family.
Yeah,
And so, once you've gained access to, the person sitting in jail or prison, because like I said, a lot of times that's when an epiphany happens, and they want to, learn more about God or come to God or however, people want to assign that. But the family, and that's the part that again we my experience has always been the family's always kind of dealt with it outside
Yeah.
and has never really had somewhere to communally support each other in the individual. And when you talk about that, like how does that work more so on the family side? Because like you said, you're able to get into the prison or the system through ministry, but how do you then get the family to really join in from the outside and bring them in and kind of work this together? Because I find that a very interesting aspect that I think goes uh, untouched or not even
Hmm.
talked about.
Several ways. First of all, through their family member that's incarcerated, for one.
Hmm.
The family members will reach, or the inmates will reach out to us and ask us sometimes to reach out to their families because their
Okay.
families are in need of just support or resources. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing that we do, because we do have a Caring Connection support group
Hmm.
for the family members, and that meets on the third Saturday of the month. We start off at 9:30 with prayer, and then we go into the support group from 10 to 11:30. And this gives family members an opportunity to come and share without
Mm.
being judged,
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
able
that's
to
key.
be open about what
Mm.
they're dealing with. And I'm telling you, I mean, there are still some families out here, and there are some people who are in high positions that don't want people to know that
Yeah.
they have a family member that's incarcerated
Yeah.
that keeps saying it's time out for being quiet.
Yeah.
There's I don't know too many families that's not been touched by incarceration.
Agreed. Agreed.
They may not want to talk about it, but there's most people have been touched by it one way or another,
Hmm.
or will be touched by
Yes.
it.
Yes.
But I mean, we have family members who have children that are going to be gone for 70 years. I have one who has a double life sentence.
Hmm.
And this is not what their goal was for their kid.
Not at
But
all.
these families have to be able to talk to somebody that says, I understand.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand that it hurts. I understand that you're mad. I understand that you think that you could have done something different. And
Right.
had you done something different, maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't be there.
Hmm.
But we have to, and then so we talk about, at some point you have to let that go. And I remember my son saying to me a couple of times, because they'll blame you.
Oh. That's for sure. That's for
They'll
sure.
blame you for their mistakes. And
Hmm.
I remember him saying to me, well, have you done this, or have you not done that, or something like that? And I said, you know what? And for a while, I took it for a little bit, and I'm
Right.
thinking, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should have done some things different. Probably should have been a better parent.
Parent. Yeah. Huh. Hmm.
Yeah, I should have been that perfect parent.
Yeah.
Struck out, but
What was I? What was I thinking? Right.
yeah, I should have known better. But
Right.
I finally said, you know what? This is the very last time I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you I'm going to say I'm sorry for not being
Hmm.
that parent you think I should have been. That's the
Hmm.
last time. And that was my last time. And
Yeah.
we were good, and this was years back,
Right.
but we were good from there. But parents beat themselves up. We
Yeah.
think,
It's.
we had we done this, they would not have been there. You know what?
Mm-mm.
In some cases, you done the best you could.
And that's so true. I mean, there's no handbook or no playbook on how to be the perfect parent.
No.
And if there and I mean, not to say what fun would it be, but you can't beat yourself up because you can only do the best you can with the tools that you have at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, and it's funny you mentioned because my wife and I were talking about this the other day. About our own. Look, and I said, babe, not to say I stopped thinking about it, but my daughter's grown now. We had a conversation and we opened up, things that I felt that I could. And she was like, Dad, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I mean, just getting that,
Yeah.
I'm content that no matter what, because I did a lot of things wrong. Like man, man,
Me too.
right, right, right. But it's one of the things. When they're grown and you have the opportunity to be. That's why we're gonna talk. And we taking the dad hat off. We had a heart to heart, and she said, Dad, I don't know what you're making. I'm good. I'm fine.
Good.
And I think that that's the best that you can do and hope for. And like you said,
Absolutely.
I think your son, early on going through his situation, we as human beings, when we're all in the wrong situation or bad things happen, we always go for the worst first
Mm-hmm.
because that's easy to do. It's easy to blame others The
Yeah,
hardest thing is to look at ourselves
absolutely.
and look at the role that we played in putting ourselves
Absolutely.
in that situation.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like he grew from that though
He
as his
did.
experience took place.
He did. And acting, I was proud of him for that because
Mm-hmm.
he took responsibility for his
Mm-hmm.
actions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, though they may not have been the best actions,
Right.
but he took responsibility for it. He recognized the errors of his ways,
Mm-hmm.
and and his end goal was, of course, to do better,
Yeah.
and to, of course, make sure his children are proud of him.
Right.
That was his end goal. And even though he passed away, his daughter is super proud of him.
I know
His
that's right.
son will become super proud of him. His son is 2 years old. He will
Oh
become
man.
super proud of him. He did a lot of good. He did a lot of bad, but so did I. But he did a lot of good, and he touched the hearts of so many people
That's
in this
awesome.
world. And he made an impact in a lot of people's lives. And I say to so many of the guys and the gals, and when I used to go in and minister in the jail, I love to minister to the men. I
Mm-hmm.
just, for some reason, I just love ministering to men because I I just felt like those are the easiest. It was easier for me to talk to them. And I remember watching those guys in the jail, big grown guys, big guys, boo. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they were boohooing, many times when they're incarcerated, they are coming in under the influence of something,
Mm-hmm.
some drug or alcohol, and they wake up in jail. And it's like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, what happened? And my first question is, are you okay with your son following in your footsteps?
Mm. That's
And
powerful.
no, they're
That's
not.
powerful.
Yeah, and they're
Mm.
not. I mean, are you okay with your daughter marrying somebody just like you?
Mm.
And they're not. They made a bad decision. Many times, drug or alcohol is in use in the commission of a crime. And
Yeah.
so, for me, and another thing that we're doing in FailSafe, again, I'll talk more about that in our criminal justice reform task force. But in
Mm-hmm.
FailSafe in general, is drug and alcohol abuse or misuse. In my opinion, does not require incarceration. There needs to be treatment for it.
I agree. I totally agree. I would like to think that we have evolved as a society in the sense that well we're looking at drugs, recreational drugs,
Hmm.
and their usage differently. So with that understanding, we have to understand the way we police or monitor those drugs should be handled or monitored differently. Funds should be given or allocated or reallocated
Hmm.
to help those who need health assistance because now
Absolutely.
it's becoming a health thing. And I'll leave that for the professionals, but that's just my take
All
on
right.
it. I agree with you 200%. Uh, our whole mindset in this country and the way that if we're going to reclass the use of drugs, then we need to reclass how they are. I don't want to say attacked, but the way that we go out and we police them, the
Yep.
way that they're addressed. Young men and women should not be incarcerated 70, 80 years. I mean, that's just an abuse of power to me now
It
on
is.
something that we're claiming, though, on this side is recreational. The scales of justice just will never be in balance.
Mm-mm.
And that's just a whole nother conversation.
No, I
And
mean, and you know what? And you remember back in the crack cocaine days,
yes,
we thought mass incarceration was the answer. Mass incarceration
it's
is not
not.
the answer.
Yeah. Hmm.
People are still being incarcerated. But now that we have this opioid thing going
Oh,
on,
oh. Now all of a sudden, and look,
treatment.
cause you about to get me started. You about, you about to get me started with that one. Cause it's funny how treatment gets started though when they look different. When it's in someone's backyard that looks totally different. But I'm not going to get into that. And
No, we're not. We
Uh,
won't
you-
go there.
no, I'm not. I'm gonna leave it there. And look, ladies and gentlemen, look, if you guys are just tuning in to today's episode, listening, you're gonna have to go back to the beginning of this. Today I'm here with Juanita Shanks. She's the CEO and founder of FailSafe, and today we're really talking about, really, in my opinion, how failsafe era has really begun to shape and change the lives of young men and women that it comes in contact with across its path with, and we're going to dive into some more of the programs after we come come up out of our little break here, I want to take a minute to pause for the cause, and I want to allow a little message from our sponsors that have been here 2 mics up, season 3. We have our platinum sponsors, TD3 Insurance Agency, Riddick Entertainment, and Bubbles and Bruce Philly. TD3 Insurance Agency, my man Clifton Durham's doing great work out here in the DMV area. Cliff protects and covers all your insurance needs from auto, home, renters, motorcycles, and specialty in life. Brand new office at 3985 Prince William Parkway, Suite 206 in Woodbridge, Virginia, 22192. Give Cliff a call and get your insurance need taken care of today. Riddick Entertainment, look, what can I say? Riddick Entertainment is a multifaceted event management firm based here in Northern Virginia. Whether it be milestone celebrations, corporate events, or galas, Riddick Entertainment's detailed creativity and event planning will give you a truly meaningful and memorable experience. Contact Riddick Entertainment at riddickent.com. Look, Bubbles and Brews Philly, y'all have to check this out. Check them out. Bubbles and Brews Philly is a vintage mobile prosecco and craft beer bar. If you're looking to raise the bar and plan an unforgettable event, contact Bubbles and Brews Philly. They're in the Philadelphia, Delaware area. Contact them today at Bubbles and Brews Philly at philly@getcozybars.com. I'm back here today, ladies and gentlemen, with our second segment, Juanita Shanks. I'm I'm enthralled and I'm enthralled and I'm passionate about this because this does affect so many of us in our community. And you were talking earlier in the first segment about some of the programs. Let's really jump in, here in the second segment, and let's talk about some of the programs that FailSafe-ERA provides. And please go into detail, please.
Okay, absolutely. So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we have a Right Road Reentry Program, and
Hmm.
that is for the inmates and the returning citizens, where we provide training, resources, our case management services for the returning citizens, and access to employment, housing, and all those things that they will need to be successful and productive members in our community. We
Hmm.
also provide through our Caring Connections and Preventing Generations of Incarceration program, our Caring Connection support group for the adult family members on the third Saturday of the month. And again, this is where the family members can come together. They can share with each other about the things that they're dealing with. We help walk them through the process of not owning the guilt and
Mm.
not owning the hurt and the pain, and understanding that we have to move past all of those things. We also have a e-chips program equipping under PGI, Preventing Generations of Incarceration. You
Mm.
hear a lot of acronyms. I'm again retired federal government, but I'll try to spell them out for you.
Okay.
But we also have e-chips. E-chips is equipping children with incarcerated parents and loved ones. That
Hmm.
program is typically it's a social emotional training that's typically held at the schools, but we're bringing it out into the community because
Okay.
it's a little difficult to get into the schools now, but the kids still need the support.
Hmm.
So it is a program for the children so that they can also have an outlet and a way to deal with the embarrassment, the shame that they have to walk through with their family members that have been impacted by incarceration.
Okay.
We also offer resources to the returning citizens. Everybody who comes out of the Rappahannock Regional Jail, or maybe even out of prison, that comes into our program as under case management, receive a bag of resources, which are personal hygiene products.
Okay.
And many times they are let right out of the jail with nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we make sure they have personal hygiene products and they have clothing and things of that nature. So we have the Right Road Reentry, Caring Connection Support Group, PGI E-Chips.
Mm. I just wanted because you meant again something that I think a lot of us don't pay attention to. Like say they come out with nothing, and really. So let's just say an individual is released, and God forbid they have no direct family, um, any type of resource to really, I guess, get themselves moving back into a positive reentry.
Mm-hmm.
Does Failsafe assist with that as well
Yeah.
upon their release? And,
Yeah.
and and how does that look? And like, how does like? Can you maybe talk about some of the mechanisms?
Mm-hmm.
That how that may work for someone in a situation like that.
So the individuals can reach us they can call us on our
Hmm.
phone, 540-479-3021. A lot of times we get individuals through word of mouth, but if they can call us, we're currently residing at the Goodwill building on the second floor. And so they can call us. We enroll them in our Right Road program. They
Mm-hmm.
are assigned a case manager.
Mm.
Then that case manager set goals for them, what it is that they want to be able to accomplish.
Okay.
Make sure they get a resource bag and some clothing.
Okay.
If
Mm-hmm.
they need bus tickets, we get them bus tickets. And we have to we house them for at least a week. We have no housing, so
Mm-hmm.
we're not in the housing business, but we will put them up in a hotel if we have
Got
to
you.
for a week, or we connect with Oxford House or with some other of our partners to get them in housing. But we
Mm.
try to quickly get them housed, and then while they're housed, we connect them with employment opportunities. We have several
Great.
second chance employers that work with us.
Mm.
So we just, and then we work with them. We work with them on a weekly basis. The case managers talk with them, walk with them, see where they are with their goals, see where adjustments may need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we do for the returning citizens when they're out. Now, our goal is, we have, I don't know a lot how many people know this, but with all of the legislation that have been passed under criminal justice reform, there is going to be roughly 14,000 plus inmates that will be released between
Wow.
now and June or July of 2022. And
Wow.
great big number of those
Wow.
14,000 will be coming back to our area.
Wow.
So there will be an influx. Now
Wow.
that's in addition to the regular releases.
Mm-hmm.
That's also not including those that's going to be getting out early because of the marijuana law that's been passed. We're about to be
Wow.
bombarded.
Bombarded. Wow.
Yeah. And so in November, for that reason, I did launch a criminal justice reform task force, and I invited the leaders in the community in to talk about this because this is not just my problem.
Right. It is a community issue.
It
It is.
is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's
They're
going to
coming
be.
back.
They're coming back.
Yeah. And so what are
Wow.
we going to do, leaders in this community? The law was passed, so they have to let them out. Their
Wow.
sentences are being cut in half. And so on this task force, what we've done is, again, these are leaders in the community, and I appreciate those leaders that raised their hands and said, yes, I want to be a part of this moving forward. I want to be a part of what we can do to make sure these guys and gals have what they need. But it's
Yeah.
not only just about reentry, because criminal justice reform is bigger.
It's bigger than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's much
So
bigger than that.
that's just a small part of it.
And just speaking on that, and because I think a lot of us, and and I'm glad and I'm honored to have you because these are the type of things that I think in our community. Behind closed doors, some of us talk about it, and we have varying ways or thoughts. But someone like yourself who's at the forefront and looking, I don't want to call it a battlefield, but you're out there looking at the layout. Like
Yeah.
and this is just, and if you don't want to, I totally, you don't have, but where do you see really a common area or a common point for everyone on both sides to really sit down and start it, because you have to start at one focal point.
Hmm.
And I know I have my, but from someone in your position and where you sit, where do you feel is fair? I want to call it fair, a fair point that all sides and all parties can really start with to build a foundation of conversation, because you got to have a solid conversation
You
foundation
do.
to even move forward. So where do you see or where do you think uh, that is for all parties involved?
I think, I don't know if I could say it's one thing, but what I will say is that look at it from human eyes.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These are human beings.
Yes. Yes.
This could be your grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
We're still having grandchildren.
Yeah. Yeah.
This could be anybody in your family. So let's look at this from a human perspective,
Yes.
of why should we not help somebody?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
nobody was born bad.
Bingo.
Something
Bingo.
happened. And here's another thing that I push real hard on: mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
just substance abuse that I believe reserved should receive treatment, not
Yeah.
incarceration. But you got a lot of people that's incarcerated because of things that they've done because of mental health.
Yes,
issues.
indeed. Yes, ma'am.
And
Couldn't agree.
so I think we need to start paying attention to people. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Just pay attention. This is a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself
I
in their shoes.
I love what you just said, and the reason why I asked, this was a conversation I had last week with a gentleman, and I told him, I said, what we're looking at, we make race the pivotal point of every conversation,
Can't
and
be.
I said to him, I said, I'm gonna tell you a story, and long story short, I told him a story. And I said, so what did you take from that? He was like, wow, that's terrible. I said, but did you notice? And I do this on purpose. I told a colorless story. I said, in that story, I never told you that the person was black, white, brown. I never shared anything personal that would give you a bias. I said, it was a colorless story. I said, do you know what that is? I said, that's humanity. That's us looking. I said, the story you heard was me talking about a human being. And
Period.
you just hit it on the head. And I said, this is the part that we as people have the hardest part because we always want to attach a color or a bias to everything,
You can't.
and you
Crime,
can't.
crime does not discriminate.
Thank you, thank you,
It really does not.
thank you.
It does not care. Um, with people.
Yeah, we're people. And people are human beings that we all want the same thing. You want that opportunity to have a good job, a fair paying job, have a nice home, have your kids go to a safe school and get a good education. Everything I did. What color is that?
No,
That has no color.
no, it's called human
Human,
color.
nothing.
And until, in my opinion, for the most part, many times, until you have been impacted by something, do you
Hmm.
care?
Yeah, I agree. That's very well said. Very well
Black,
said.
red, white, yellow, whomever, I don't care what color you are, if you've been impacted. And I will tell you that a lot of our clients are white.
Of course. Well, and again, I don't want to say of course, but look, I'm just gonna be aware. The reason why there's a reason why we're a minority is less of us than them.
Yeah.
So by natural number, this natural math, there has to be more of them in jail. It's
Yes.
just that our numbers,
Yeah.
because we're so much smaller, look
Yeah.
so much higher, and they
Yeah.
have you believing that there's so much more of us in jail. Stop. And again, this is where not education, this
It's
is
not.
common sense, people.
Yeah.
But again, that's a whole nother show,
It sure
and
is. Yeah.
that's a whole nother show.
It really is.
It
But
really is.
so I just think if we put a human eyes on people,
Yes,
on in this, start just seeing people for who they
yes,
are,
yeah,
and that, just like I said, it's by the grace of God that I'm here,
yeah.
because we all could be locked up.
Oh, without
if
question.
if you think about it, how many people drink and drive? How many
Okay.
people go to you on the golf tournament playing golf and you happen
Yep.
to drink?
Yep.
Everybody commits crime,
Yep. Yes,
and they
indeed.
just happen to not get caught.
That's it. And that's really where the difference lies for most of us. And
Didn't get caught.
unfortunately, it just don't get caught.
Mm-mm.
And that's just it's a freak. I don't know how that happens, but it happens. Um, I wanna ask. You know, you talked about all of these great things with failsafe era and things that are coming up. I want to know more about where do you see failsafe era in not 2 years, let's say 5 years. Where do you see it? Because for me, this I think is a program that is great because it's here in our backyard, but I think this could be something that really can help not only grow but spark growth
Mm-hmm.
across the country
Mm-hmm.
and in our communities. So where do you and that's just my opinion, but where do you see fail safe era in let's say 5 years?
So first of all, us a household name,
Okay.
just like McDonald's. Failsafe is going to be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you have McDonald's and all the cities and all the states, and we've already started. We've not pushed it far, but I have people from Texas and Maryland and Ohio who's asking for our programs. Our goal is a center of hope.
Mm-hmm.
In our center of hope, it is a comprehensive reentry facility that will provide the returning citizens everything that they need from day one to become successful and productive members in our community. And in this center of hope, we are also looking at, again, the entire family. How do
Mm-hmm.
we bring hope to this entire family? And also, they have a unique set of needs, and so they need to have some attention brought to them. They can't You just can't let people out of jail and send them to social services, to DMV, to the Goodwill, to get send them here, send them there. You can't do that. There
Right.
is just no way. We have people we have some guys now who they were locked up for 30 years, and they were let out in the middle of the pandemic, and now he's got
Mm.
to be able to maneuver. So
Wow.
in 5 years from today, I expect to see FailSafe-ERA as center of hope in every major city in the
Wow.
United
I love that.
States. We can even go abroad
I love
because
that.
people are incarcerated abroad also.
Hmm.
And really and truly, just to have a an intentional program in place for people that says, okay, you've committed. What I would love to do, we know we can't, is that for there to be no crime.
Right.
But
Right.
we know
Right.
people are going to commit crime. But
Hmm.
one of the things that couple of things that we're looking at, even in the Criminal Justice Reform Task Force. So, in addition to our Center of Hope, where returning citizens can come back and have programs where they can become successful and productive citizens, what our other goals are also is to have some alternative solutions for incarceration.
Yes. Yes.
Let's not, again, we can't incarcerate our way out of every situation.
Right.
So if we, for example, a first time offender, put them in the right role program, and in
Mm.
that right role program, force them for a year to get training on how to be a better person.
Hmm.
Help them to, if they are substance abuse abusers, put them in the substance abuse program. Put them in mental health. I think
Yes.
when people commit crime, something is not right.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, I think that's the case a lot of the times with people uh, across the board. Period. We're especially today. We're dealing, like you touched on so many things. A pandemic, uh, all of these changes in our lives are
Hmm.
affecting people differently and in
Mentally,
different way mentally.
yes,
Mentally.
yes, yes.
And you've touched on it. Like there's just so much, and I just love.
It's too much
w-
to going
It
on.
is too much going on, but I love what you say. For it to become a household name, to become an integral part of what is happening with reform of young men and women, because for so long we're so used to institutionalizing people through punishment.
Hmm. It's punitive.
Punishment,
It's punitive.
it's not, it doesn't work, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't afford people to rehabilitate, because you
Mm-mm.
go in, you come out so hard,
Yeah, yeah. Because
and
there's
it's
no
hard.
rehabilitation.
No. And how do you readjust? Like you said, you had him at 30 years. And if he didn't have a way to put in work to better himself or give himself tools, man went in jail. There might have not been, flip phones. Now we out here, we in the cloud. No, I mean,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
hard enough living out here and understanding. So imagine what it's like
Oh,
30 years.
absolutely,
It's too
absolutely.
much, and I just love that.
Well, you
Um,
know what? People might this might be mm, easier to reach people now since has been locked up.
yeah, yeah, that's it's true. It's
Through
true.
this pandemic, everybody sees what it feels like to be locked up.
True. True.
So
Very
I
true.
don't know. The other thing that we want to be able to change also is many times when individuals are arrested, they pile on charges,
Hmm.
and so we've got to get to the point of, and that affects them when they go to
Yeah.
look for jobs. They do
Yeah.
not that those charges that they were never convicted of, they're still on their records.
They're still on their record. Yes.
Yeah, so
Mm.
we need to change those types of things. That's just we've there's a lot that we're so used to operating in a certain way when it comes
Yeah.
to incarceration
Hmm.
and the criminal justice system. We just need to change.
Yeah.
It's just like us. We can't be the same way we have always been.
No. You have to
We need to,
change.
yeah. So let's
You have
change the
to.
system.
Well said on that point. So before we close out today, I have to ask one last question. I think that for me, this is the money question. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, please tune in and listen to this question. With all the great things that Failsafe is doing, how can the community help and assist fail safely? What is it that we can do uh, through these times, and while you're going through these changes and all of this great work? What can the community do to help you in fail safe era?
Oh my goodness. One, change your perspective. Help us,
Mm,
help us
mm,
to see them as a human being.
yeah.
Two, we need help. We need case
Mm,
managers because again, 14,000 plus are coming out. And in
mm-hmm.
addition to that 14,000 plus are the regular releases. We need case managers to come in and help us to work with these guys and gals when they are released back into our community. We need resources. We need financial resources. We need a building. You have a building you want to
Okay.
donate? We'll take that building.
Okay.
We
Okay.
need money. We can go to our website and you can make a donation. And through those donations, we will be able to house the returning citizens. We will be able to continue with our training. The training costs, and we don't
Mm,
charge the returning citizens. It's for them is free, but it
mm-hmm.
costs us for us to be able to get the materials that we need. We also need to continue to be able to get them their personal hygiene products, clothing. We
Mm,
have to house them in hotels. It's three
wow.
hundred dollars a week
Ooh.
to put a person in a
Ooh.
hotel, and imagine how many people come to us
Wow.
that needs housing.
Ooh.
It's $300 a week, and then we have our children's program. We
Wow.
want to be able to help the children. That program costs. So we need resources. We need financial resources and we need human resources. And currently what we do is all volunteer organization.
Mm, man. I mean, that was a whole lot, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this back up again. You heard, case managers, resources of volunteers, building location. I mean, money. Uh, these all really go a long way when you're talking about fail safe. When you hear $300 a week to house someone, and when you understand that you're going to have 14,000 plus coming home to this region, that's a phenomenal number. That's a phenomenal amount of resource assistance that is really going to be needed. And if you can find it in your heart and in your spirit and in your time and in your Rolodex or your contacts, take 5 or 10 minutes, and really sit back and think about what role you can play in helping. And that's why I'm honored and I'm thankful to be able to have this platform to share this with so many. If you're watching this and you take time to listen to this, really think about what you can do to help. This really does impact us locally, but think about what that number could look like across this nation
Mm.
because it does impact you, whether you're here in the DMV or not. And this may be something that you may want to talk to your people or reach out on how you can get in touch with Juanita and Failsafe and maybe have this come to your community because this does impact us all. So, Juanita, I thank you for taking time out today to join us here on Two Mics Up, sharing this amazing, your story, your organization, and everything that you're doing in the community. And before we go, can you take a few minutes, just share, where our audience, where they can reach you, contact you, what you may have coming up next, if people want to come out and support, share all of that information, with our audience, please.
Absolutely. So you can uh, learn more information about us on our website, which is www.failsafe-era.org, or you can call us at 540-479-3021. We are on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're on all of these social media platforms, so you can find us on any of those, on all of those areas. We are located at 4701 Market Street in the Goodwill Building in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And we would love, love, love to hear from you. We need all of the help that we can get because, again, this is not my problem. It's a community problem. And they're coming home.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that was amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, man, another great episode, Two Mics Up. Your man, Dame DNYDC. Before we go, I want to take a quick moment to thank, our friends again over at TD3 Insurance, Riddick Entertainment, Bubbles and Brews. I want to thank my marketing and branding team over at 94 Media House for putting together this whole design in our brand new shop. You can get, brand new Two Mics Up gear online at www.twomicsup.com/shop. Um, we're going to be coming with a whole slew of things here in season 3. I can't wait. You guys stay tuned. If you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe to the show online at www.2micsup.com or go over to our YouTube channel because now we're really diving into YouTube this season. You can catch us on YouTube at 2 Mics Up. Make sure that if you're watching the show, you hit the subscribe button, you hit the thumbs up, thumbs down. If you don't like it, let us know. Hey, look, we'll take criticism. Yeah, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear, what you want to see, what it is that we can do better. And like we always do at this time, stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.